Lewis Hamilton might leave Mercedes early with 3 races and 1 sprint race left to go. After a really bad race in Brazil, where he won his first championship way back in 2008, it looks like the 7-time world champion is tired of how Mercedes treats him and wants to leave early. But Mercedes fought back hard because they didn't want to accept that he's leaving the team. This makes us wonder, how will things end between Hamilton and Mercedes, and will they end on a bad note? Hamilton had one of his worst races ever in Brazil. Even though he got 1 point on Sunday, it wasn't what he hoped for after seeing how fast the car was all weekend. Russell was winning the first part of the race before the rain and safety cars and red flags changed everything. But since Hamilton started from 7th place, there wasn't much anyone expected from him as he fought with cars like the Haas of Behrman and the RB of Lawson. When talking about his car, the 7-time world champion said, "With the car I have right now, it's the worst I've ever driven, so I probably won't be going very far with it. At least one of our cars was behaving. It's like a plank of wood. There's no suspension, it's just bouncing on the tires everywhere. Can't get on the power anywhere. The worst ride that we've ever had, particularly through corners, just so stiff." The team has tried to explain why Lewis did so poorly in Brazil, because having one car fighting for the race win while the other is at the back fighting for tiny points is totally not okay. According to the trackside engineer Chauvelin, the team is now working really hard with Lewis's side of the garage to figure out the problem that's not obvious but is causing these bad performances. But Hamilton dropped some big news, especially after he drove Senna's MP4/4 car. After that legendary drive around Interlagos, Hamilton said that he would much rather drive T-Paisua, old car than what he has to deal with for the rest of the weekend. While this might seem a bit rude to the engineers who work really hard back at the factories, it's just Hamilton telling the truth about how he feels. When talking about these differences, Chauvelin said, "Normally you're able to understand the differences between the drivers' setups. You let the drivers change things. They don't have to run the same setup, and we will let them develop their own setup. And when one of them seems to be going well, you often take parts of that setup, or even the whole thing, and put it into the other car." The sprint race was a huge problem, because when you have less grip and you're getting snaps of oversteer on the exit, you create more heat, and that makes the problem last longer. The other thing about the weekend was that the conditions were very different. That's not the reason for the problem, but it certainly made it harder for Hamilton to get the setup he wanted for the race. But what's even worse is that Hamilton sent a mysterious message that hints he might leave Mercedes early. In the radio talk after the race, the British driver said that this might have been the last race he could have driven for the team, which didn't end nearly as well as he was hoping it would. While cooling down after the race ended, Hamilton said, "That was a disaster of a weekend, guys. That's the worst the car has ever been. But thank you for continuing to try. Great job to all the guys at the pit stop. If this is the last time that I get to perform, it's a shame that it wasn't great, but grateful for you." There's no doubt that a statement like this has caused a lot of drama throughout the grid, because Hamilton has also said that the end with Mercedes and the W15 cannot come soon enough, hinting that he's sick of driving a car that acts differently week after week. However, Mercedes is a great team, and they understand how important it is to have Hamilton in their group for the last races of 2024, and the events he has to do before finally leaving for Ferrari. So they've confirmed that he will stay with the team for the next 3 races, and there won't be any changes to the lineup. The whole situation was also talked about by Johnny Herbert, the famous steward in the past couple of races who is also a Sky F1 commentator. When talking about the balance of the car and how a driver like Hamilton cannot get control of it, Johnny said Lewis Hamilton can't wait to get to Christmas. It is very confusing. There are times where he shows his real raw speed, and then it all disappears. How and why does that happen? That's what I don't understand. The car is a bit up and down like a yo-yo anyway, and George has similar problems. Lewis is coming to the end of his time at Mercedes, and George is the future, and Antonelli is lined up for next season, so Mercedes will be favoring George, and a lot of the energy and input will be coming from him. What Mercedes has done earlier is that they've blocked Hamilton's move from Mercedes to Ferrari after the Abu Dhabi finale to the Pirelli tire test, because they feel like he has a lot of duties to the employees back in Brackley, as well as lots of diplomatic work with Mercedes and its partners. This shows that the team didn't accept the fact that Hamilton chose to leave them earlier and activate a clause in his contract before even testing out the W15. And now that he's behind Russell in the Drivers' Championship, after having 2 wins in 2024, it's safe to assume that the favoritism process has been going on for quite some time. To make matters worse, Toto Wolff has spoken about the contract that Mercedes signed with Hamilton, the 1+1 rule, saying that he knew that all the good things will come to an end, and so will the departure of the 7-time world champion. Talking about it more, Toto said, "We're big boys. We knew that by signing a short-term contract we would only lock Hamilton for 2024 and leave the door for 2025 for him to leave. But we also knew it could be of benefit for both sides. We couldn't commit to a longer period, and he's taken the option to exit. We totally respect that you can change your mind. There are different circumstances switching to Ferrari, maybe for the last job in his career, maybe rolling the dice a little bit. I can follow that decision." However, Wolff admitted that he kind of felt betrayed by Hamilton, because by the same time he announced his departure, drivers like Norris and Leclerc had already signed their extensions with their respective teams. This left Mercedes with no other choice than to go for the bold promotion of Kimi Antonelli, who's yet to finish a full season in Formula 2. This move is compared to the one that Red Bull did back in the day with Verstappen, as Toto has full trust that Kimi is the next champion of Mercedes. This leaves a little bit of room to be curious as to whether or not Russell can be the leader that the team says he needs to be from 2025 onwards. On top of that, it seems like Wolff knew about Hamilton's departure quite before it was announced, as it was told to him by the father of the driver who Hamilton effectively replaced in Ferrari, Carlos Sainz Jr. When talking about it, Wolff said, "So I heard the bells ringing 2 weeks before. Yeah, the old man Sainz called me and said, 'This is what is happening,' and then there were a few drivers' dads who rang me up that didn't before. So I thought, okay, there is something going on there. Then I sent a text to Vasseur saying, 'You're taking our driver.' I didn't get any response, which was very unusual for Fred. He's a good friend, so yeah, I saw it coming." Obviously, Hamilton is not very proud to be driving the W15, especially after how the season turned out to be, with Mercedes being in no man's land and being firm on the 4th place in the Constructors' Championship. They have no hopes to attack for the top 3 positions, and they're safe from the back of the field. But with the new regulations and the new hopes coming up from Antonelli, the team is now determined that the future is bright, especially once the new regulations come up from 2026 onwards. Whether or not Hamilton made a mistake by moving to Ferrari, time will tell. But as of now, it looks like he knew that the season would unfold the way it did, which is always a huge factor as to why he was treated the way he was in races like Canada and Spa. The silence on the radio was deafening in Canada, where the tactics played by the team were extremely poor. While in Spa, the team understood that they'd messed up the race and risked the one-stopper with Russell that effectively gave Hamilton the win, which was visible by the face of Wolff. With all of this in mind, do you think that Hamilton should leave Mercedes earlier? And if so, do you think that Mercedes is doing the right thing by keeping him until the last day in his contractual clause? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're interested in the latest drama revolving around Lance Stroll and Aston Martin, make sure to click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now.